Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I am Shogun. Thank you to our live audience joining us today. My special guest, before I get started, please do find us on the Roundtable Discord server. We are through Discord under the Conspiracy and Politics headings. You can also just Google Roundtable Discord and find us. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Reddit, etc. All social media, Roundtable. We also have a website and forum community. We're on Twitch, live streaming, YouTube, and podcast, Addict, Podbean, etc. So join us, please, for all the good times that we have. My special guest today is Princess, and as I do with the other members of the server, I invited her to be a guest on a podcast, and she said she would do it, but the condition was she wanted to interview me instead of me interviewing her, as has been the case in all the previous episodes. So this is a special Interview Shogun event. Princess is going to interview me. I will answer all her questions. After that period of time, we'll open up to the audience and they can interview me or ask questions or comments or whatever, or we'll just turn it into an open discussion event. But nothing's off the table. As you guys know, I can't discuss my job in detail. Everything other than that is on the table. So thank you, Princess. How are you today? Thank you for joining me.
I'm good, thank you. Are you ready to be peel like an onion?
Yes, and before I start, I'd just like to point out Princess is my old good friend. She's a moderator on the server. She is Malaysian, and she is a wonderful person. So that being said, I'm very honored that you would interview me today, and please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Shogun. Okay, can we begin by you telling us about your childhood?
Yes, I had a very happy childhood. My memories are not extensive, but I was born in Canada, central Canada. Very fortunate in that my family always had a series of cottages and cabins in the beautiful lake and forest areas of Canada, the White Shell, as they call it. And so I spent half my time in the cities and in the city, a nice city, and then half the time or more in nature, in the forest and the lake environment. Did a lot of canoeing, a lot of camping, hiking, mountain biking type stuff, a lot of nature, and like swimming and just like good shit like that. So I was very lucky. I grew up in like a beautiful country and a beautiful part of it, and I had like wilderness life, which a lot of people don't get. So
do you think that you were a privileged child?
Absolutely. First of all, I was born in Canada, and the Congo, Darfur, Sierra Leone. I was born in Canada, so first world country, one of the best countries to live in. Free healthcare, peace. We never had war, never had famine, never had plague. So we were fortunate automatically. Also, I was not rich, right? So I was not the richest of the rich, but ultimately I am definitely the global 1%. And actually, I say I was not rich. That's not true. We were rich. We really were, because I went to an elite private school. I went to a series of private schools. I had a great house. And, the neighborhood I grew up in was in National Geographic it had a feature in National Geographic because my neighborhood was so sweet. It was the biggest urban forest in the world. And I basically grew up in a forest within the city, and then at the cabin was a forest. So I actually had an urban forest and a normal forest I grew up in. I was very lucky. It was a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. And yeah, I had a good country to live in, a good family, loving parents, private schools, lessons, soccer practice, piano lessons, like whatever, There was really nothing anyone could realistically want that I didn't have. Put it that way. That being said, I wasn't hyper rich. Like the people who went to private school with me, the people who went to the elite private school with me, they were rich. Like they had like marble staircases, tiger pelts on their pianos, like fucking cocaine and caviar, yacht party people, right? But those are the people I went to school with. I wasn't like them, but I was like able to rub shoulders with them.
Oh, very nice. But don't you think that you feel slightly like different from them because they are more privileged than you?
Well, I was different from them for a lot of reasons. That would be the least of the reasons. Like they were richer than me, but I'm different from everybody, Princess. I think you know that. Like I've been an outsider in every group I've ever been in. and an insider. So yeah, they were different. I mean, yeah, they were hyper rich Jewish people mostly. I went to school with like a clique of hyper rich Jewish kids. You know, the place I went to school was an actual castle. It had battlements. It was like something out of like X-Men. Like it was literally like I literally went to high school in a castle with battlements and towers and the whole thing. This is a literal fact. It was pretty damn cool. And I went to high school there, 10 to 12, and then I got my degree there as well. So I was there for like 8 years and I fucking loved it. And yeah, it was literally like stained glass windows, battlements, like a fucking brick like castle. It was fucking cool.
Wow. What is like one memory that you can like take away from your childhood? Like a one memory.
Positive or negative?
Okay, what about one positive and one negative?
You asking like the most significant positive and negative memories?
Yes.
From childhood specifically, like early childhood? I'm just trying to, it's a big, like broad question. I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, like from your childhood, like not adulthood yet, not even teenage years yet, your childhood.
Well, first memory that comes to mind from childhood that would be strong and negative. Negative. Well, the only thing that really comes to mind is when my cat Mystery died. She was this beautiful Himalayan cat. She had white, long white hair, like crystal blue eyes, right? Crystal blue eyes, beautiful, beautiful cat. She grew to be very old. Her name was Mystery, but my friend called her Misery because she was so old, you know, she was so fucking old. But she was so funny. She'd sit inside the door and look out the door, and it was this glass door. So she was looking outside at the trees and everything. So you'd think she wanted to go outside. So we'd open the door and let her out, and then she'd walk outside, turn around and face in and look in. And we realized she was just looking at her reflection. She would just sit there and look at her reflection on the outside and then go in and look at her reflection on the inside. And she was very pretty. But anyways, when she finally died, like I was supposed to give her these shots, these saline shots to help her kidneys, like dialysis. But she was such skin and bones that like you couldn't find anywhere to put the needle into it. So I couldn't do it anymore. So she passed away, and I just remember like saying goodbye to her when she was sitting on that little couch thing. And I was so sad. Like I really love my cats. Like even now, if I think about any of the cats that I ever lost, I'll cry.
I'm sorry about your cat.
So that would be the bad memory from childhood. And then good memory that stands out from childhood. Fuck, I don't know. I mean, the first thing that came to mind was there was this place in the cabin called Blueberry Hill, and you could go there because you could pick good blueberries, but it was also really epic cliff diving. And there's like a series of gradations or whatever of higher and higher levels of cliff diving. And the first thing that came to mind was when I did jump the biggest one, because it's legit. It's like a crevice into the rock. And so when you're jumping, it's like rock on both sides of you shooting by as you fall. And it's like really far. And if you hit the water wrong, you're fucked. Because if you go in at an angle, you'll splat. But also, if you jump wrong, you'll hit like a rock or whatever. So I don't know if that was a good memory, but I do remember doing that jump once. And it's just the first thing that came to mind. I wouldn't say that's my happiest memory. It's just the first one that came to mind.
Oh, that's really sweet. So now let's move on to your teenage years. Like, did you have a lot of friends back then?
Yeah, well, yeah. My whole life I had essentially a core group of friends. It was really more than a group of friends. It was like a family. We're almost like a gang. We called it a crew. That was, for whatever reason, the term back then. But yeah, man, it was, well, how many of us? I don't want to say their names exactly, but I don't really mind to. So it's the core of it was me, A, J, It was like, I don't know how many the core of us was, but it was like me and like 5 or 6 guys, and then we were part of like a tighter group. But yeah, we were from infancy, like from early childhood, we knew each other. Like all our lives, we knew each other, and we were tight. And it was like the group of friends I had, I have no memory like before them. Like they've always been in my life, and we were tight for a long, long, long time. And yeah, all through junior high, high school, elementary, early times, like same tight group. But then we were part of like a set, and the set was like a bigger group, and that was the FG crew, I guess you could say, and that was like a whole neighborhood crew. But our little crew fit into this wider set of crews, and yeah, man, it was great. We always had our group of friends, and then our extended group of friends, and there was house parties, and like. But then meanwhile, I was also going to private schools while all my friends were going to public schools. So I had all my like rougher like group of friends that from my neighborhood, and then I had the friends that I made at each school that I went to. And I've always been popular, but in like a weird kind of way, because I've always been like a popular outsider. Yeah, so it's a little bit of both worlds, like a popular loner, popular outsider is the only way I could put it.
Oh.
But in my group of friends, I was an insider. I had like a crew of like, and again, these people were closer to me than my family, like way closer, and from early childhood all the way through adulthood. And I'm still in touch and still close with some of them.
Sorry, it's how you are right now too, right? It's the same back then and now. Do you feel that way
Well,
too?
no, because some of them I've lost touch with for different reasons, right? Like one of them became a really big coke dealer, and I couldn't stay involved in that world anymore, so I cut ties with him. A lot of other ones moved away to other parts of Canada, and we just lost touch due to geographic distance. And others of them, for one reason or another, are not as close. So the number of them now that I'm still in touch with is small, but some of them I'm still real close with. But most of them have either moved away or drifted apart. But we were tight for, 25 years.
Oh, wow, that's a long time.
Yep.
What kind of student were you in school?
Well, through junior high, basically there's 2 phases of my academic career, before grade 10 and after grade 10. So before grade 10, I was at a series of Christian schools, and I was a huge rebel. I was the black sheep. I was rebellious. I was a troublemaker. And so I was always getting in trouble and like barely passing and not studying and fucking around and being a mischief maker. Then when I had the opportunity to go to the elite private school that I went to, which was the Castle, the dean said, well, your grades are not good enough for you to get in. But I'll take a chance on you. If you bring your grades up to like straight A's, then I'll let you in. And so I brought my grades up straight A's. I got in. I got the university special entrance scholarship for my grades getting in. And from that point on, I maintained a 4.0 GPA in every class I ever took, all the way to the end of my master's degree. I never dropped below a 4.0. But prior to that, I was just barely passing. He said, listen, I'll let you into the school if you get good marks. I got such good marks, I got an entrance scholarship. From that point on, I was a straight A student through 10 to 12, because my 10 to 12 was in the Castle. And that was an amazing school. Fuck, it was good years there. And then the Castle was literally attached to a campus, like a university campus. And that's where I went for my undergrad. So you could literally walk from like an air tunnel, like an elevated tunnel from the Castle to the campus. And so I did one of my 2 undergrads I did in the attached campus, and the other one was across. But the point is, after grade 10 till the end of my master's degree, I was literally the top of every class I was ever in. Prior to grade 10, I was barely passing.
Do you have someone that like turned your life around during that time? As in, do you have one specific person that changed your behavior? You said you were a bad, kind of like a bad kid before, right?
It was just the change of scenery, going to a university, like a private university that I wanted to go to, as opposed to a religious school that I didn't really want to go to, and working in a way that I respected versus didn't respect. So when the dean took the chance on me and said, like, I will let you in if you get good marks, then I was motivated. Whereas before, I didn't respect the people that were giving me the marks. So I didn't care what the marks were. So it just that was the main thing, just going to a school I kind of believed in and liked. And after that point, I took seriously my academic career. And so I maintained good marks from that point on. And, it's true, your high school marks really don't matter. So I basically just like smoked weed, skipped class, and fucked around through high school. And then when it actually mattered, high school and senior high school and university, then I actually did well.
Oh, you got married right after high school, right?
Yeah, I was 18 when I got married, essentially. That's how I explain it. My ex-wife moved in with me when I was 18 years old, and we stayed together until I was like 30, and our divorce only finalized when I was just past 30. So, yeah, I essentially was with my wife from 18 until 30, and in a sense, was still connected to her past that.
Do you still talk to her?
Oh yeah, we actually just hung out yesterday. We just hung out last night.
Nice. So what is like the dynamic of that relationship? Like you guys still can be friends?
I mean, that's basically it, right? Like usually when couples break up, especially if they're married, but if they're like a serious relationship, it's pretty much a myth, or it's very unlikely for people to actually stay friends. And when people say they're going to stay friends, it usually doesn't work out that way. However, my ex and I had an extraordinary relationship, as I put it, beginning, middle, and end, meaning the beginning, middle, and end of our relationship was unusual, right? Like we fell in love, kind of love at first sight style. We had like an amazing romance, an amazing marriage. And when we broke up, it was, in a sense, it was kind of amazing too, even though it was terrible, just how we managed it. And yeah, we're still friends. We literally hang out every week, and we've hung out every week since we broke up, basically. We have beer, we smoke weed, we talk, we hang out, we catch up, we enjoy each other's company. We're like, I don't know, I would say best friends, or at least very good friends, and we respect each other. And yeah, that's all I can really say.
If you could change one thing about your relationship with her, what would that be?
My relationship with her, I would have done things differently, I guess, at the end. I would have managed it differently, just in certain regards, but it would be a whole complicated mess of like specific things I would have done differently towards the end of the relationship. But I won't get into like the specific details of that. It would be too specific. There's other things I would have done differently. Like if I could go back into one thing, I used to work in this high paid, prestigious social research job. And I left that job ultimately because it was such a toxic work environment, and my supervisor was so toxic, it was kind of destroying our quality of life. But if I look back on the whole marriage, if I had kept that job and toughed it out with that horrible boss, we would probably still be together. And so that would probably have been the like turning point of the whole thing, if I had made that job work despite the horrible work environment and just like toughed it out instead of leaving it for something more healthy. That probably is what would have saved the marriage if I was to bet on it.
Isn't that like picking your career over your relationship?
Well, no,
Like,
in this case they went together. So in other words, I picked to choose a job that would be less toxic and more healthy and have a better quality of life and less stress. But when I look back on the marriage, if I say at what point could I have saved the marriage, I would say it was when I was doing that high paid, prestigious social research job. I left it thinking that would be better for us. But in retrospect, I should have kept that career in order to save the relationship.
yeah. But wouldn't your choice make you a better person? Like you're not too stressed?
I mean, it had its advantages and its disadvantages. The advantages, I found a job that was low stress, that I liked, that had, benefits, pension, insurance, dental, massage, counseling, seniority, unionized, all kinds of perks and benefits, but it was less high paying, less prestigious, less competitive. And so I enjoyed that job, and it's a positive thing. But part of, I think, the consequence of that was ultimately the end of the marriage, because I don't think the marriage would have ended if I had continued on the previous career track. So if I could go back in time, yes, I would change it, but you can't go back in time. And so it's, it's just simply an academic exercise based on your question. But I've obviously thought about it, right? You look back on what went wrong, and I think if I had to pinpoint one thing that went wrong, that would be the main one.
Do you still have the job that you mentioned earlier, the one that you changed into, or do you have another job, a different one?
I've mentioned that I can't speak about my job, so I may have changed to a new job, but I will not speak in any detail about my current employment.
Okay. Okay. If you can like sum up all your experiences and like since the beginning, since your childhood until your adulthood, w- what what is the lesson? What did you learn from your life so far?
My entire life, what have I learned? Oh, damn. Well, that'll take a while, or we're not that long. You don't want to refine that like in any way. I'm going to sum my whole life up into a message. Okay, give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
I mean, I guess what I could say is this. Out of all the different things I've gone through, everybody goes through different things. What's going to matter is sort of how you respond to the challenges that come up to you. And basically, ideally, you'll have some kind of a formalized system of this. It doesn't have to be excessively formalized, but the idea would be you might have like a lifestyle or like a philosophy. It doesn't have to be a religion, but it could be something like a way, a path, right? It's better to have a path than no path, better to have a way than no way. So there's things like Christianity, there's things like Buddhism, there's things like this and that. I basically settled on Bushido/Budo, which means the way of the warrior. And then you say, oh, that's pretentious. What, you think you're like a warrior? Well, no, I'm not running around cutting people's heads off with swords or anything like that. But if you look up warrior in the dictionary, it says either a soldier or a fighter. And a fighter could be a martial artist, unarmed combat guy. And I am a Christian to some extent, but Christianity has not given me what I needed to guide my life. Bushido Budo does. It basically just means like be a martial artist, have a path, have like a discipline, have training, have exercise, have competition, have coaches, have training partners, do sparring, progress and develop your skills, and study and associate with other fighters and warriors and grow better and stronger together. Test yourself, work hard, break yourself down, come back stronger. Focus on your health, your body, your concentration, your discipline, your balance, your flexibility, your heart, your chin, your mind, your soul. Like be able to kick ass, walk into any situation with your shoulders back, your head high, not because you're enacting it, because that's your natural posture. Be the kind of person that nobody fucks with because they instinctively know they don't want to. And why am I emphasizing this is because nothing else is certain, right? Your beliefs and mine have no objective difference. You may believe you're a communist thing, my capitalist thing. I may be red, you may be blue. Therefore, ultimately, the determining factor will be the skillful use of force, and he who has the monopoly on the skillful use of force in a social situation controls what good things can exist and what evil things will not exist, or vice versa, what evil things will exist and what good things cannot exist. So in the Bible, it says, words of wisdom are better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Well, what does that mean? It means, yes, it's better to be wise than strong, but without strength, how do you defend the fruits of wisdom? Good things can be destroyed by evil men in a heartbeat. A person you spend 100 years investing time into can be killed in a second by someone with no understanding of what they're destroying. Creation is the work of a lifetime, destruction is the work of an afternoon. So therefore, only strength defends goodness, and therefore strength is good. All things being equal, and for someone like me, I have to focus on this, otherwise I just self-destruct. So be a martial artist above all, fuck everything else, and that's it.
Can you tell us your experience in like training in the martial arts? What was it like, or what is the extent to your uh training?
Sure. I believe the first thing I ever did, I remember when I was a kid, as a very young child, I used to do like Kung Fu. I loved Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and I used to do like make up my own karate. And she'd be like, hey, do you want to go into martial art? Do you want to go into martial art? You seem like you like it. And I'd be like, no, because I was shy, you know? And I was like, no, I don't think so. So unfortunately, I missed my opportunity to start as young as I wish I could have. However, when I was maybe 13 or 14, I took a Taekwondo class. I did some Taekwondo. I learned some really good kicks, and I kept those good kicks for my whole career. But I was only in Taekwondo for a little while. Then I took something called Shito Ryu. Shito Ryu was a street self-defense course. It was run by a male and female couple. It was actually kind of interesting. They actually did some innovative shit. It was basically like real street self-defense, like protecting yourself from rape, protecting yourself from stabbings, from like gang scenarios. We did drills where there'd be like a group of people all in like kind of SWAT team type armor, and you would have to like fight through like a line of them. So they'd all be trying to grab you and hold you, and you just like kick and knee and fight your way out as if like a group of people was against you. Shit like that, or like what the normal positions are where someone tries to grab you from behind if they're trying to rape you, or like grab you around the head. So it was actually quite practical. Shito Ryu, if you can find that. It means like way of the street or something, I can't remember. Then I got into my first serious training when I was at the private school I talked about, the castle type school. It had an attached athletic complex, and so I went over to the athletic complex and I was looking for a martial art. And there was like karate, taekwondo, kung fu, different things, and somehow I chose judo. Thank God, because basically everything else on that roster was bullshido. But somehow I found my way into judo, which is legit as fuck. So anyways, I go to this judo class at the athletic complex of the university there. And the instructor is an Egyptian woman. She is an Egyptian Olympian. I'll give her name a shout out. Shireen Razak, right? Won bronze medals for Egypt in Olympic judo. And badass fucking woman. So anyway, she was my first ever serious coach. We had big, heavy straw mats, like thick straw mats as hard as fucking concrete. And we put them out, and she taught us Egyptian style judo, which is some hardcore shit, man. I mean, Japanese judo is soft compared to Egyptian judo. It's a lot of head trauma. It's a lot of boom, boom, boom. It's a lot of screaming and yelling and go, go, go. And so that's why even now I have this like fiery, explosive, ballistic, dynamic style, and I still go like make loud noises when I fight and like do battle cries and grunts and shit. Don't really fit in that well in the, you know, serene world of jiu-jitsu or Japanese judo. And they used to hate her too because she was always screaming. And the Japanese culture is very peaceful and quiet, and the Egyptian culture is very loud and aggressive. And so me and Trine don't fit in. But anyways, she forced me to compete because she said, you have to compete. And I said, I don't want to compete. I just want to learn. She said, well, this is a competition gym, and if you want to train here, you have to compete. So she forced me to compete, not just provincially, but interprovincially. So I'd have to go on these buses and travel around and bring your gym bag and your food and your water and pay all this money and take days out of your life and 2 days on the fucking bus and then compete and then da-da-da. But I ended up winning a bunch of gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals. And even when I was a 14-year-old yellow belt, I beat black belts and brown belts who were full-grown men in competition. That's a fact. You could find it in my record. I remember one tournament in Kenora, which I think is on Ontario. I think I was 14 years old and a yellow belt. And because of the low attendance of the tournament, they combined my weight category and my belt category. And so I had to fight a brown belt, adult man, choked him out. He tapped out. Then I had to fight another brown belt or a black belt. I can't remember. And he ran off the mat and threw up in the middle of our fight. So I won that fight too. So as a 14-year-old adolescent yellow belt in one tournament, I beat an adult black belt and an adult brown belt. I did get some gold medals, bronze medals, silver medals. Had my wins and my losses. Only went as high as a green belt in judo, I think, but I was close to blue. Then after that, I switched to MMA. I went into, because I was a big fan of Joe Rogan podcast, he would talk about MMA. Started watching MMA, loved Conor McGregor, watched all Conor McGregor's fights. When there was no Conor McGregor fights left to watch, watched all the other fights. Then I was like, holy shit, I want to do this. So I joined the Canadian Fighting Center, which is a great MMA gym in central Canada. My head coach was a Muay Thai world champion named Giuseppe Di Natale. He fucking multiple time world Muay Thai champ. Had a great jiu-jitsu black belt as my coach. Also was my hairstylist. Well, not my stylist, but my barber. And yeah, I did several years of that. So under one roof, then I was doing boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling. Yeah, that's the MMA combo we did at CFC. Did that for several years there. Got as close to taking a fight as signing all my paperwork, getting all my medical shit. But then I got injured and was in the hospital, got sick, and so I wasn't able to take my fight. But I was going to fight for the Mercenary Combat League. And I haven't entirely given up on the possibility that I might take between 1 and 3 fights with the MCL, which is the Mercenary Combat League in MMA. I would like to do that. But anyways, after my divorce, I wanted something to do as like a change of scenery. So I decided to go to TriStar in Montreal. And TriStar is one of the best, if not the best, MMA gyms in the world. The head coach there is a guy named Firas Zahabi. He is George St. Pierre's head coach. George St. Pierre is one of the greatest of all time fighters. I actually trained under the same roof with George St. Pierre while he was there. So essentially I trained with George St. Pierre. I never laid hands on him. I never touched him or worked with him, but he was working side by side with me at TriStar. I also got to meet Vitor Belfort. I actually did get to train with Elias Theodorou, the main event, hair model extraordinaire and UFC fighter. I got to train with Oven St. Mercier. I got to live in a dormitory with Mirsad Bektic, who is a Croatian, I believe, or sorry, Bosnian or Croatian. I major political fuck up by not telling the difference. I'm sorry, Mirsad. But anyways, Mirsad's the man, and he signed my gloves. I lived in dorms with him, saw how he ate. He gave me a nickname, which was the Reverend. And I got to train, I literally brushed shoulders with Vitor Belfort, the Phenom. And yeah, got to shake hands with Firas Zahabi, did jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA grappling, MMA sparring, got to train inside the cage, like an actual MMA cage, met some young up-and-coming fighters, went out and partied with those guys. Fucking awesome. Should have stayed there, could have stayed there for a full year or two, but I made a stupid mistake and came back because I didn't want to lose my job. But if I could go back in time, I would have stayed at TriStar for a full 2 years and just gone full pro fighting. And then came back, transitioned exclusively into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. For the last 2 to 3 years, I've done exclusively competition Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been at Gracie School, and my gym just recently switched affiliations. We are now under Renzo Gracie. But yeah, so now I'm full-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now I can compete monthly. And my big thing I'm looking forward to is the Provincial Open in the spring, but there's new tournaments on a monthly basis. So that kind of brings us up to now. I see myself as a mixed martial artist. My basis is in judo. My career and focus is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've trained in everything real.
When did you get seriously hurt, and how did you get better?
I've had a lot of different injuries. The worst injuries I've had were 2 separate injuries, both of which were blown knees. One was I simply attempted to execute a judo throw that I've done a million times. Obviously, I did something wrong. I blew my knee. I continued to train, as I always do, because I am stubborn and have an excessively high pain tolerance, and I often stubbornly do things I shouldn't do. So I blew my knee, continued to train, hurt it worse. That was one time, just a judo throw. The other time I was wrestling this dude, and I was doing squats with this big dude on my back who was a lot bigger than me, and wrestling him, and then I blew my knee, but because of the adrenaline and maybe or maybe not drugs I may have been on at the time, I didn't feel anything, and so I continued to wrestle him for a long time, and that was the worst one. Woke up the next day in bed thinking nothing's wrong, got to take a piss, swing my leg out of bed, try and put my weight on it, scream at the top of my lungs, scream as though you're sticking a razor blade in my fucking whatever, 10 out of 10 pain. And then I had to spend 8 months sitting on an office chair with my left leg working, wheeling myself with my left leg from the bed to the toilet, take a piss, wheel myself back from the toilet to the bed, lie in bed. Wife brings me soup and food and water, and I'm just lying in bed for half a year. Can't fucking take a piss or stand up.
Can you still compete after all these injuries?
Yeah, believe it or not, my body's strong. I've got no lingering residual problems. Both my knees are strong as ever. My whole body's strong. I'm essentially more or less 10 out of 10.
Do you have anything planned, like competition wise?
Like I said, compete once or twice a month, up to and including, and then the Open, the provincial Open. Try and win a gold in either gi or no gi. Obviously, ideally both. But honestly, if I place in both, I'll be happy. So if I were to get bronze or silver in both gi and no gi, I'd be perfectly happy with that. But your goal has to be the gold.
Good luck and all the best for that. Earlier you said that you are a Christian, right? Do you believe in predetermination? Do you believe that like destiny?
Um, Sort of an impossible question. I don't believe that free will makes any particular sense. All my logical analysis is that free will does not and cannot exist, and therefore, if free will does not and cannot exist, technically, from the perspective of an omniscient being, there is such a thing as predetermination, which would mean if all decisions are preordained by past chains of cause and effect, then a being of sufficient intelligence could predict all cause and effect chains into the future. And so, from the perspective of an omniscient being, the future would be preordained because it could see the cause and effect change far enough in advance to see what the future would hold before those decisions had been made, which would mean there is no such thing as free will. So, vis-a-vis the God Emperor of Dune, Leto Atreides, I would say, yes, predetermination is real from the perspective of a being that is omniscient or all-knowing. All future outcomes are already known.
Have you ever followed any other religion?
Yes, I have followed more religions than anybody reasonably should. In a sense, I've followed them all. I was born and raised a Christian. I had my moment of doubt and kind of rejected the religion based on the hypocrisy and absurdity of a lot of what I saw in my religious upbringing with regards to Sunday school and specifically religious and Christian schools. Kind of disillusioned me, and my critical mind saw a lot of problems. So I left the religion, and then I pursued everything from Buddhism to shamanism to Gnosticism to occultism to, Crowley and magic and Thelema to, Wicca to Hinduism. And ultimately, I Buddhism, Taoism, I studied every religion basically and practiced most of them, as well as occultism and stuff. Ultimately, I married a Hindu. And although she was not a religious Hindu, she was an atheist and a humanist and a scientific secularist. Her father was a Hindu pundit, which is like a priest. And so I inherited a family home that had like an altar. And I used to pray and meditate to Krishna and Vishnu and Shiva, and had all the altars and the Ramayana and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas. And I actually practiced Hinduism for quite a while, fairly sincerely, and only later kind of left it all to return to a Christian system, sort of a Christian Bushido system. So it's just like, yeah, so now I'm Christian, but along the lines, I practiced and studied most religions.
Okay. Mm,
Do you
okay.
want to open it up for, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's time to open it up.
Well, thank you, Princess. That was a good interview. I appreciate it. And if anyone else wants to ask any questions or say anything, you can either ask questions for me, say anything you want to me, or just have an open discussion. And if nobody wants to, we'll just conclude it. But does anyone else have any questions or anything?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said you have 2 bachelor's degree and a master's degree. What are your degrees in?
I have an undergraduate degree in human systems intervention, which is conflict resolution, dispute resolution, mediation, negotiation, arbitration, conciliation. So I have that one from a religious university. And then I have an undergraduate degree in social science, an honors degree. It's an undergraduate honors degree in social science and sociology. And then I have my graduate degree in social science and sociology, my master's. And then I also have a college diploma in workshop facilitation. So I actually have one degree or diploma from every degree or diploma granting institution in my city, which is a total of 4.
Okay.
How long did it take for you to get indoctrinated into the New World Order?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I was just kidding, man. I'd like Miss Morningstar to speak up. She has any questions. This is Shogun. You might remember him from the MK Ultra server way back in the day. Y'all might know each other if she unmutes herself and says something. That'd be nice.
If she wants to, you're more than welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Rena.
Give me a second.
Pardon me?
I said, give me a second. I'm trying to think. Because I came late to the server.
I'll
to the
ask a
interview.
question that'll give you a second to think about it. So,
All right.
Shogun, in the shortest possible, with you still being happy with what you've said to convey your the answer, what is your ideal world
Well,
of
the
our
most
world, our that you could see our world turn into?
Okay. Good question. Really good question. So the thing that is most important to me out of all possible priorities and causes is ecology. I did my graduate degree on the global ecological issue. My priority as a person academically was to turn my intelligence to solving the existential problem of the fact that we've completely destroyed our ecological support services. So essentially the problem is the Earth was like a paradisical system that created oxygen and food and climate regulation and nature and ecosystems and habitats that we could all eternally live, on. And all our social problems and technological problems and economic problems were totally secondary. But we are fucking morons, and so we put our ecological, social, and technological priorities above our ecological priorities. We fucked over our ecological support system, and now we're all going to die, and there will be no future. So therefore, the priority is to solve this problem. Now, if you ask me what is the best of all possible futures, we solve the ecological crisis, we stabilize ecological devastation, we restore ecological support services, we restore habitat, we restore biodiversity, we restore climate stability, we counteract runaway climate change, we stabilize the methane system, we reforest the earth, we create sort of an eco-paradise. So what I would describe is an eco-technological social utopia. We actually did an event on this where I tried to articulate this. It's actually clear to me now that after all this time of being a doomsday sayer and doom prepper, we actually do now have the technological, social, and political apparatus to solve these problems. So it's actually pretty clear that we could use geoengineering to stabilize the climate issue. We could use geoengineering and terraforming to stabilize the biodiversity issue. All we need to do is solve overpopulation, overconsumption by the wealthy, waste and pollution, and climate change. We can do this largely through ecological modernization, which is just simply adopting more efficient, more scientifically advanced, more technologically adept technologies. There's a million and one examples. So anyways, what we could have is something called fully automated ecospace luxury communism, which would mean everything's done by automation. You have artificial intelligence and automation producing all goods. There's no need for labor. Therefore, there's no need for pay. The AI simply assesses need, matches manufacturing and production to match need. Everything everybody needs is manufactured automatically by AI and robots. Nobody needs to work. Everybody gets a guaranteed minimum income. You can all do whatever you want. People have to give meaning to their lives through art, music, dance, song, competition, fighting, fucking, having friends, social media, love, laughter, alcohol, and fun times. And that's all we do. It's just an endless party with spaceships, and we colonize outer space.
Yeah. What Shogun said.
Amen.
I think watching Kushner is asking a question in the text channel.
Can you narrate it for me, please?
Well, he says, I knew you were in cahoots with the Zionist in your university.
Well, actually, I was. Here's the funny thing, Kushner. My school and my city is actually one of the most heavily influenced and controlled by the Jewish presence or the Jewish identity. So, like I said, I went to a very elite private school, and most of the elite private school cool kids there were really, really wealthy Jews.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there actually was a rule there that said you could not criticize Israel. You could not speak positive of Palestine. Like, it was like an academic rule. And there was like a very strong Zionist sort of influence there. And one of my mentors there was one of the professors who kind of went against them. And so I didn't get involved in any of that politics. But believe me, if there's one place where you would see a presence of that lobby, if you want to call it a lobby, or that identity group, it was definitely there. But, that's neither here nor there. And they were all my good friends.
He says, I kid mostly. He says, what is your role in the NWO Agenda 21 worldwide prison planet for Tikkun Olam to occur?
I don't know what Tikkun Olam is, but the rest of it I'm familiar with. My role is I'm not really part of it. I'm just living with you guys, being part of a network of people, informants, people feeding back to a collective consciousness as we monitor this transition, right? So as things happen, we now have members around the globe, pretty much every planet on Earth, from Saudi Arabia to Africa to China, every planet on Earth, every country on Earth. So we hear things that are going on. So we had like a guy in Italy, and he's like, holy shit, I can't go outside because the military is shutting me down because of coronavirus. And then we got somebody in Australia saying, holy shit, the sky is black and I can't breathe, cough, 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 this wildfire is insane. And then we got somebody in, some other place saying, oh, holy shit, it's kicking off here. So what we have is finger to the ground, finger in the air, We're monitoring and reporting back in real time everything that happens. And you can have whatever perspective you want, but we can all benefit from the collective.
Okay, he says, I have a legit question. But he hasn't
Go ahead.
typed it yet. He hasn't typed it yet. Have you ever lost a fight, and if so, what was it?
Well, of course. It's not like
That's-
I'm undefeated in anything. I mean, I've lost judo fights, I've lost jiu-jitsu fights, I've lost wrestling rounds, I've lost everything. I don't win every fight I'm in. I've lost street fights, I've lost every kind of fight. I mean, overall, I'm a talented and gifted fighter with a lot of attributes and assets, and I'm not an easy time for most people, but I'm not Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm not undefeated.
Shogun,
Yes?
Abundant has a question.
Why don't
When
you get on the
did
mic,
you-
Abundant?
Okay, go.
I don't know.
Abundant.
And I don't know why she's asking for me.
Okay,
Whatever.
I'm asking for you, okay? Okay, he
Okay.
asked, when did you get Guffy, your cat?
I'm not sure exactly, but my sense of time is all fucked. But I had my first cat, Jade. I had her for years and years. Actually, I got Jade just before I met my ex-wife. So I was married to her for like 12 years. So I got Jade before I met her. So I've had Jade for like 13 years. Now Guffy we got as a kitten from my sister because she lives on a farmstead and she had a litter of kittens. And she needed to put them up for adoption. So me and my ex-wife went over and visited. And there's all these little kittens like milling around. But one of them climbed up on my ex-wife, climbed up on her shoulder and like sat on her shoulder. And so we're like, okay, obviously we need to take this one. And she said, that's a little girl named Bacon. And so we took this little girl named Bacon home. Turned out to be a big, fat boy. And he ended up with the name Guffy. Now, we hoped he would be able to live with Jade, but Jade was a female cat. He was a big boy cat. He was rough and farm cat. She was a sweet little house cat. So he just terrorized her. And so we need to find a new home for one of them. But my mom wouldn't take Guffy because she doesn't like big boy cats. So she took pretty nice Jade. And so Jade had to go live with my mom, where she still is now. And Guffy lives with me. He's sleeping on the chair beside me right now. And he's great. I mean, he's a great cat. But Jade was a perfect cat. But she's happy with my mom.
How old is Guffy?
I don't know, because like I say, my sense of time is fucked, but I'm not sure. He's younger, though. Jade is older. He's younger, but I'm not sure exactly how old. I'll take a picture of him right now and post it in general chat.
You said he's a crazy farm cat. He's a mouser.
Well, he's a fighter, man. He's a farm cat. He's a mouser. He's not a mouser, actually. He's a shitty hunter. He's too portly. He's a fighter, though. He's not a hunter. I actually raised him to be a fighter by accident.
I want another cat, but I don't know Canada to Georgia shipping. That might
He's
be kind
so
of
funny. I'll post a picture of him in general chat, or actually in the special events channel right now. That's right above this channel.
Shogun, you know Snickers, right? You know how crazy she is and how fucking awesome she is. And she's a feral. Well, she was a feral. Now she's domesticated. She is a mouser, and she's a fighter. I think they get along pretty good. If he's neutered.
Yeah, he's neutered. I just posted a current picture of him. How about you, Benjamin? You got any questions for me? We completed the interview. This is just open discussion now.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. It's 3:47 Central. I got to go to jiu-jitsu in like 2.5 hours. And basically, if you didn't know the story, I offered Princess a chance to do a podcast. She said she would do it, but only if she got to interview me instead of the other way around. And so this has been an interview of me, but now it's open discussion. So if you have any questions for me about anything, you can ask, or if anyone else wants to. Otherwise, it's just open discussion. If not, we can close the event at any time.
I wanted to ask, you said that you've been an insider and an outsider your whole life. That's an interesting perspective. How do you think that's affected you or your view on things?
Well, basically what I mean by that is I've always been an outsider of every possible thing. Like I've never like conformed or been like within anything in the normal way. But the outsider slash rebel slash like, you know, outsider person is always seen as kind of cool or interesting. So I was never excluded from things. Like I was always invited to all the cool parties and stuff because I was seen as like cool and interesting, but also I was never part of those groups. And when I was part of groups, I was part of like outsider groups, but I was always seen as cool. Like I know it sounds like egotistical or whatever, but it's just my honest remembrance of myself. Like girls always liked me and stuff because I was always seen as like the bad boy, the edgy, like unknown quantity guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just, you know, and even my groups of friends I was in, like we were involved in some like outsider kind of shit. So yeah, I don't know. Even in groups that I'm part of, I'm always been seen as a little bit of a, yeah, outsider, insider is the only way to say it. Always included, but never like part of the normal team or normal group. I don't know how to explain it beyond that.
You don't know how that's
Cool.
affected you?
Oh, well, the thing about me is I've never sought social inclusion primarily for its own sake. Like, I've always been independent. Like, I've always been a bit of a lone wolf. So, like, when I was at university, all these girls and guys would want to hang out with me, but I'd literally go into the library, like, walk through the library, go to, like, the back part of, like, the bookshelves, sit down by a window with like a house plant and a window and a bookshelf, like in literally the most like isolated part of the whole university. So like nobody could even find me there. And then I just read like weird, like esoteric Hindu books and shit. But meanwhile, I'd go to big parties, be an extrovert and party and dance and fucking drink and do drugs. And like, so I've always been like a weird mix of like an introvert and an extrovert where most of the time I make myself really hard to access, hard to talk to, like keep my circle small. But when I'm in a big social situation, I'll just become like a crazy social, like party person. It's strange. It's like, I think I'm 90% introvert, 10% extrovert. But when I'm an extrovert, I'm like a huge extrovert.
And do you think that gives you a different perspective on the world, like a different view of things because you're not kind of in the in group, but you know, you're not part of the in group, but you have access to the in group?
I mean, I truly believe that my perspective, as I guess you would say anybody's perspective, is completely unique. But even among a world of unique people, it's simply definitely true to say that I am very unusual, right? It's just like the group of people that I'm part of, it isn't like an identifiable group. It's like a very eccentric, like outlier thing that I am. Like I'm an outlier in like every part of my life. There's almost no part of my life that I'm not some kind of an outlier.
Right.
That's just the way it is. But everybody's perspective
Do you
is
think
unique.
being a
Everybody's
Gemini
unique.
make you that way?
I think Gemini is part of it. Gemini means you have two sides to you, right? So I'm not a big astrology guy, but when I did look into astrology, I realized that the Gemini thing totally matches me. And actually, it's like weird how much it matches me. So Gemini basically means you have an angel and a demon inside of you, or you're like the twins. There's like, you have two sides of you. Now there's a guy here named Jonathan Franklin, and Jonathan Franklin joined the server and he loved me. He's like, holy shit, this Shogun guy's amazing. I love the round table. This is the greatest thing ever. I love this place. Oh my God, Shogun's my hero. And then we had like another interaction. He's like, what the hell? Like, he's like, there's like, he literally said, he's like, there are two Shoguns. That was his expression. And he's like, there's two different Shoguns. I'm like, yeah, that's essentially true. And that's what the Gemini means. Like you have like an angel and a demon, you have two sides. And that was his side of it. And then also I have the diagnosis of bipolar. Now I think that diagnosis is false. I don't believe that's a correct diagnosis, but bipolar means two sides or two aspects or two polarities. So technically bipolar or Gemini means the same thing. And I obviously do have both an extremely compassionate, loving, and benevolent side to myself and like a rigid, harsh, like honor-bound, retributive or intense side of myself. And, I am unapologetically just that because we all have our composition. You can't choose it. You can't change it. You just are what you are.
People love and hate you at the same time sometimes, right?
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. Like my Discord perception of people, social perception that people have of me is polarizing. People tend to either love or hate me. They tend to not be neutral towards me. A lot of people love me and are loyal to me. A lot of people hate me and have like grudges against me. And that makes sense too. The bipolar, the Gemini, the polarizing nature of it. It's just, I have a personality that inspires both loyalty and enmity, unity and disunity. It's just, it literally is like a Gemini bipolar thing. It's just like I am dark and light in different ways. I think all of us are. And we all have these different aspects and sides of ourselves. But I think I am an extreme example of that.
Dude, I'm a Pisces for fuck's sake. Like, I'm literally up and down the stream at the same damn time, 24/7. Everybody's like, "You're an asshole. You're a genius. You're a genius asshole. You're insane. You're crazy. You're a genius." Fine line, Shogun, between genius and insanity, for sure.
Exactly true. And I mean, go ahead. Yes?
I have a question. What's your relationship with Chad now after MK Ultra, and then he changed it to Red Politics, and then there's another part about religion. Do you think religion can help save the world, or we should abolish it altogether?
Well, to answer your first question about Chad, as far as I know, and as far as what Chad's told me, he and I are cool now. So he is welcome on my server. He's not banned from the server, and he's been active on this server a little bit. And I am also on his server. He made me a member of his server. So we essentially both are active on each other's servers. As far as I know, he's not actively doing anything hostile to us. We've never done anything actively hostile to him or anyone else. So as far as I know, Chad and I are cool, and he specifically used the term bury the hatchet. And I told him the hatchet was buried a long time ago on our end. So as far as I know, we've always been cool, and we are now cool. Hopefully that's the case, but no hard feelings on my end, that's for sure.
Are you scared of Chad?
Oh yeah, every night I can barely sleep because if I just think about what if Chad comes in my window and just has his way with me, I just tremble in fear.
A lot
The
of people
second question. What about the second question?
Right.
About the religion part.
Oh, about religion. I am a religious man, right? So I'm a Christian. I pray.
Okay.
I read the Bible. I believe in God. Believe in intelligent design. Believe in a creator. Believe in an afterlife. Believe in a soul of sorts. So I'm a religious person. I don't think religion is fundamentally bad. I think a lot of expressions of religion are bad. I think there's a lot of problems with religion. I think a lot of religion needs to be reformed and changed and understood differently. And it causes both good and bad, but no, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Religion is a powerful force. Properly understood and properly channeled, it's one of the most powerful forces. And the right religion could save the world.
The right religion.
Should
Okay.
should it be abolished? She asked earlier.
No, of course not. No, but certain kinds of religion that are incompatible with greater social and human values need to be modified or abolished. So there's certain things that religion currently does that cannot be allowed to continue, but religion itself should continue. It should just have to change in certain ways or be understood in certain ways. Certain things that are happening right now under the guise of religion do need to stop, and certain kinds of religion are evil, but religion itself is not evil.
Shouldn't we all believe in just one God, like a universal God, as in like not attached to dogmas at all?
Well, you can believe in one universal God if you want. I believe in one universal God. You could also believe in a polytheistic universe. You could believe in multiple gods. It doesn't really matter. You should have freedom to believe whatever expression of religion suits you or matches your belief system. I don't care if you believe in zero God, one God, or million God. I believe in one God. I also have no problem with understanding subdivisions of that God. Even Hinduism, which is said to have 1,000 gods, is also monotheistic because they believe all gods are one facet of one God. So I don't really care about your theology. We can talk about theology, but as long as you behave in the sense of benevolence, then you should be free to believe whatever you want. So as long as you're not hurting, torturing, tormenting, oppressing, enslaving, killing, murdering, raping, etc. other people, and in some way you're having a positive attitude towards people, I don't really care what your expression of that attitude is. If you worship Shiva, Vishnu, or Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah, it doesn't really matter. Can we be benevolent or not? If we have certain basic standards, we can all coexist.
Mr.
That
Richard
is so
Dawson
true.
is asking you, Justin Trudeau, great prime minister or greatest prime minister?
Well, I'll tell you something about Justin Trudeau. He legalized marijuana federally, and that's a big deal. And it shouldn't be underestimated how big a deal that is. It helps people medicinally, it helps people therapeutically, it helps people athletically, it helps with brain trauma, it helps with CTE, it helps with
Fuck
concussions,
Trudeau. His
it helps with
qualifications to run a
cancer.
country is being a part-time teacher and a snowboard instructor. That's his qualifications for running a fucking one of the world's biggest countries. All right.
Sure, but
He's
that's a
a
question about
fucking
his
cuck. He doesn't respect anyone from his middle provinces, especially Alberta, especially Saskatchewan. All right. They fuck around with this fucking pipeline. They won't allow them to get built. They fucking take all the funding away for Alberta, right? They're meant to give them that funding. They take it away back off them and they distribute it back to the other provinces. There's a million things. There's a whole fucking... In fact, I've got a mental book of gripes on Trudeau and how he treats his country and the people in there. He is not a fucking good guy. And if the only thing he did was legalize weed to be a good... If that's all it takes to be a good leader in your eyes, then you shouldn't have an opinion, because there's more to running a country than fucking marijuana.
Sure. And first of all, I didn't actually say I thought he was a good leader. I didn't say anything really. I just said one thing I will remember him for is he is the prime minister who legalized weed, and I do agree with that. I think that's a very positive social step. It has a number of benefits. Now, you sound like an Australian, perhaps. Nevertheless, I'm not a pro-Trudeau guy, not at all.
Well,
But I do support the fact that, he legalized weed. That is credit where credit's due. Other than that, I think we need to change him for a new politician. Absolutely. We need a new leader.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I'm not knocking him. Okay, I'm not knocking his political thing, right? If you've noticed that. But him as a leader, right? If all he's done is legalize weed And when it comes to, there's other people in Canada, man. There's not just fucking bunch of weed smokers, man. It's great. Yeah, you legalize weed. What do you fucking do? You know what I mean? There's other industries there, and they don't even get a look in. You know what I mean? And there are other people. There's other things that the government does, like this compensating of fucking terrorists and shit. That's got to stop. They have to fucking stop, man. Like they gave that one guy $11 million, and now what does he do? He owns an entire shopping center in Calgary or Edmonton. What the fuck, man? You know? And then you get
Is your Canadian military involved in the war in the Middle East, or has it been?
Yeah, Canada is involved in the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq.
Absolutely.
Okay, but hold on, Vlad. You're not Canadian, right?
No, I'm not Canadian, bro.
You're Australian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he asked me, is your Canadian military involved? So he's asking me, I'm Canadian.
They're involved, man.
Yeah, we are. We are involved in Afghanistan. We're involved in Desert Storm. We're involved in Iraq, right? Canada has fought in every major imperialistic war that America has launched since the war on terror.
Sorry to interrupt you, bro, but you're telling me, the other guy, that you didn't know that Canada is helping America?
No, I literally said I literally said the opposite. I said yes, Canada is part of the war in Afghanistan.
I was not.
Matter. It doesn't matter if you knew or not. It doesn't matter if you knew or not. It's okay to ask a question. It's okay to learn new things. You can't know everything.
Canada is like, obviously, whenever America is at war, Canada's there, UK is there, Australia's there, right?
Yeah,
all those
5 eyes.
That's a given, man, right? And New Zealand, and fucking probably South Africa too. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I have a question about that. Like, if we were to take a number, if we were to sum up all the soldiers in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria over the past 20 years, if there was a ratio of 100 U.S. soldiers, how many would be from each of the other countries? I'm just genuinely curious.
Well, what do you think?
I would assume that the UK ratio might be something like 30 for every 100 U.S., and I'm not sure about the other countries.
That's a good question, actually. I wouldn't have a clue. To be honest, man, I don't know the ratio. It depends which war, right? So, like, you know, that one particular is a bit different than Vietnam was just America and then Australia. It depends which conflict, right? I get that.
No, yeah, but I mean specifically the Middle East wars, you know, since 2001-ish.
Man,
the majority of our Canadian troops are in Afghanistan, not Iraq.
Yeah. You got countries like Japan helping you or us, really. Do you know what I mean? Just like, you've got all these different countries, man. I'd like to see that ratio, though. I'd like to see all the countries that they all come from too, man. You'll find there are all these weird little, you know, like India and Japan and Philippines and Lebanon and Ireland. Like, you'll have all these countries you don't even know about their military, and they'll be there, right? I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched just like YouTube videos of Italians because I was curious, like, what machine gun does the Italian army use? And you know, those are fun to watch.
I wouldn't have a clue. I remember seeing the Italian army, right? I'll tell you one thing that I know, because I lived in Italy as a kid, and when we drove one day to Venice, and to get to Venice is like this long bridge over the sea, and the Italian tanks were coming out of Venice. They must have just gone there, and all the commanders have this weird fucking looking helmet. It looks like a Roman helmet, and they all have feathers that come out of it. These big long feathers. It's really, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, they got this weird tradition thing.
Shogun, I have one more question.
Okay.
Who is your best friend in this server?
Well, I have multiple best friends in this server. So I won't answer that because I have several different people who on different levels are very close to me in the server. So I can't really pick one.
You should give them shout out.
Well, I can give a lot of shout outs, right? I mean, we got NSA, he's been here representing since the beginning, spreading the alien targeted individual agenda. He's been doing amazing. We have you, Princess, holding it down in here on the regular, representing Roundtable. We got Belushi with that deep knowledge about cannabis and fucking everything else under the sun. We got Abundant in here with the magic and the fucking multiple other aspects. I mean, we got 1,000,001 people in here. We've had Queen, we've had Data, we've had Becky holding it down. You know, we've had fucking Squad, we've had Jade, we've had, you know, 1,000,001 people in here. I mean, let's just take a look at the mod thing. Ainsoft doing the live streaming, Deus Ex Machina, server owner, Queen since day one, Nitro Boosters, Sir Shattuck, our new Knight of the Round Table, Tech holding it down since day one. I mean, come on, so many people. If it wasn't for the whole team of people and the whole community, I literally don't even know Discord shit. I can't do anything, program a bot, nothing. It's all a team that's done everything. So
You're not tech
Fuck all
savvy,
that
huh?
shit. I hate.
no, I literally don't do nothing. I just hang out in here and talk, and the team does everything.
You try and program one of these bots on your phone, and never, man, it just never changes. It never works right. They got to fix that, don't you?
So should we conclude this episode, or does anyone have any further questions?
About what? What is this, interrogation? What's the questions about what?
It was an interrogation, but let's wrap it up now. Thank you, Princess. Well done. No, it was. It actually was. You just came in late. So,
Any
all right, good.
questions?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Find us on the Roundtable Discord server through the Conspiracy or Politics tag of Discord, or just Google Roundtable Discord server. You can find us on all social media, Patreon, GoFundMe, YouTube, the website, the forum community, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, etc. The rest of us are going to jump down to the Roundtable channel for free discussion. Thanks, guys, for joining the live audience. See you next time, tomorrow, or even later tonight. Who the fuck knows? See you later.
Thank you,
See ya.
Shogun.
Thank you,
I killed
Princess.
you like an onion. Thank
I didn't even know
you.
that
Great-
this was
great
live,
job.
man. As you can
Great
see, I was
job, Princess.
bro. Fucking everyone's just left the fucking call.
They went down. Check down. Round table, the other one.